here. It's 9:16. We're going to discuss some of the morning's stories with broadcast and journalist Afia Hagan. Morning to you, Afia.
Good morning.
And with Chief Foreign Affairs Commentator for the Financial Times, Gideon Rachman. Good morning, Gideon.
Hi.
Let's talk about Ukraine first of all, shall we? Of course, Russian forces have been accused of using chemical weapons in the southern Ukrainian port city of Mariupol after unknown substances have caused respiratory problems. If proven, this forces a very real question to the West of what do we do next. Gideon, where do you think we are at this point right now? We have concerns about Mariupol. We have concerns about what's going to happen in the east because Russia seems to be concentrating its troops there. Diplomacy is pretty much disappeared completely. I know there was the Austrian Chancellor meeting Vladimir Putin recently, but that's about it. So where do you think we are right now?
Well, I mean, I think that, a mixture of complete horror and despair of what's actually happening in Ukraine with some satisfaction at how badly things have gone for Russia up to this point, but a bit of foreboding about the future. So those, I guess, it's a mix of conflicting emotions. I mean, I think on the sort of first point, the horror front, you mentioned chemical weapons. Obviously, that would be crossing into a whole new area where NATO has said it will respond and has said all options are on the table and all that. But I mean, frankly, the stories of mass killings of civilians, mass rapes in towns like Bucha are just horrifying. And I think that we're still trying to figure out, well, what does this mean? I mean, I was listening to Jamie Shea just there talking about, well, Russia's undertakings under Minsk and nailing them down. But how can you even really deal with a country that behaves like this and that lies so consistently? It does raise the question of whether any Russian undertakings are worth thinking about. Then, just on the other issues, I think that obviously Russia's done very badly, and it's had to redefine its war aims, give up on trying to take Kiev. They're now concentrating their forces. I mean, at the least, there's going to be sort of big battles, a lot of bloodshed, and Ukraine is also pretty battered. We just learned yesterday that its economy may halve in size over the course of this year. They've lost a lot of people as well. I think they have an advantage in morale, but the Russians have more people, and they may grind the Ukrainians down, and that too will pose a real dilemma for the West.
Let's move on to another really important issue, and that is MP safety. This, of course, is in light of the murder trial of the killer of Sir David Amess yesterday. And, of course, questions have been raised about the security of our politicians. Sir David is not the first MP to have been killed or injured in recent years. Joe Cox, of course, and there was a plot foiled to kidnap and murder another MP recently as well. Gideon, is enough being done to keep our MPs safe? And do we just have to accept that being an MP in today's climate is sadly a dangerous job?
I'm afraid so. And, it's a very difficult dilemma because I think one of the things we rightly cherish in our democracy is that people have access to their MPs. And a lot of MPs take constituency surgeries very seriously as a really important part of their job, and it's a nice idea that people can just sort of rock up and see their MP and talk to them face to face. But obviously, it's there are dangers. We had two MPs murdered, others attacked. Stephen Timms was another who was gravely wounded. So yeah, it requires courage. And Joe Cox's sister, who took her, was elected to her seat just recently, her old seat, did say that after the murder of Stephen Timms, she thought about packing it all in because, and you can't totally blame her. But I think, it's inevitably going to be a kind of messy compromise. You'll have more security, but providing MPs with 24-hour security or even, tough security at constituency surgeries is, quite labor-intensive thing to do. So I suspect they're going to have to continue to maybe, do a mix of tightening up their own security, taking a few less risks, and also accepting that there is some risk inevitably involved in their job.
Yes, and as you say, that proximity that we have as the public to our elected representatives is very unique to British democracy and very important. I mean, I worked for a number of MPs, Afia, and they wouldn't want heavy burly security on the door because I think they would worry that would put a lot of people off who need their help. Well, let's just move on to another topic which has been dominating the news cycle over the last couple of days, and that is the Chancellor Rishi Sunak and his wife's domestic tax affairs. But it's been reported that one of the symbols which proves he's very out of touch is that he has 4 different kinds of bread in his house. I'm thinking back to this. I think he was actually asked about the price of bread and he sort of said, I think I've got 4, to try and sort of slightly fudge the question. But of course, a big sort of, talking point from this Rishi Sunak tax story is, can the super wealthy be in touch from a political point of view? Gideon, what do you think?
Probably not. I'm sure he didn't know the price of bread or the price of milk. I mean, but probably not unusual among MPs in that. I mean, I think he is unusual in that through marriage, he's not just rich; he is, super rich. The family that he married into are, billionaires, and that's unusual even for an MP. But look, I always find this thing about, well, do MPs understand daily life? A little difficult because we live in such a sort of complex society that no MP can fully understand the life of everybody in the country. That the different races, different regions, different levels of wealth, etc. So you just need people who are prepared to act with empathy, to do some research, etc. Nobody's life experience is going to kind of map onto the whole country. So I don't think that a very rich person, shouldn't be allowed to serve in Parliament or anything like that because they're incapable of understanding the dilemmas of ordinary people. But I think that if they do come from that background, it's sort of incumbent upon them to do some work, and try to figure out, to understand what it's like to live on a food bank, how many people are having to resort to that kind of thing, what those kinds of dilemmas mean, not just to live in their own bubble and in which those ideas are simply an abstraction.